Hey everybody, in this video I want to talk about how to break out of negative cycles, negative thought cycles that trigger negative emotions that happen when we were kids, and then they get triggered and they just play on repeat over and over and over again. These are programs. These are programs that are not serving us, that are installed in our operating system, and I'm going to share how to break free from those and how to liberate that energy and step into something new. So first, I want to say right now, we're in this cycle of stale, stagnant energy from our past getting released. And we've been in this cycle for this entire year. But you may find that there are particular things that are coming up, especially right now, that are almost like shadows of who you used to be, that are still being created in your current now experience. And you're being asked to make new decisions, to step out in new ways, to become a new person, to move beyond, to wake up from these patterns. So I first want to talk about what keeps us stuck. What keeps us stuck in these patterns is projecting onto other people. As humans, we love to avoid moving through negative emotions. It's understandable. It doesn't feel good, right? We avoid looking at what's at the root of what's causing these triggers because it's easier. It's easier to place blame. It's easier not to take responsibility. But in the long run, it's not easier at all. It's much harder to continue with a certain trigger for years and years and years and years and years than it is to say, okay, let me move through some pain in the beginning and break free from this habit so that I can actually be free for the rest of my life. So what we do when we're triggered is immediately we look to project onto somebody else. So let me just tell you a story. Let's say you're walking down the street. Somebody comes up to you that you don't know and says, hey, stupid. If you look at that person and you think, they're silly, whatever, and you keep walking, and there's no negative charge in that experience, then you're not projecting anything onto them. At the same time, you're having an experience that you don't prefer. You realize that it's not you, it's them. But you don't have any charge around it. So that's not projection. Let's say that somebody close to you says, hey, I don't like what you did. You did this the wrong way. And they start, judging you, right? And in that moment, you have a charge, an emotional charge, an experience of being attacked. And in that moment, you think, gosh, did I do something wrong? Am I a bad person? I must have done something wrong because they're upset and they're close to me and they know me. So they must know if I'm doing something wrong or not, versus this person that comes out of nowhere and you don't know them. The difference is you're now projecting onto them. You're projecting onto them because you now feel guilty. So most likely you're going to project either frustration or sadness. You might get angry. You might say, hey, how could you possibly say that? The only reason you would get angry is if you actually took it personally. So right before you got angry, you are reliving a belief that you made a mistake, you're not good enough, you didn't do things right, that kind of thing, right? In that moment before you got angry. And then instead of dealing with, why am I thinking I did something wrong? Maybe I should look at and reframe this perspective so that I'm not incurring this negative emotion over and over again within myself. And if you take that and you start working with that, you then break free from that cycle. So the next time somebody comes up to you and says, hey, you did this and I didn't like it, instead of having an emotional charge, you think, okay, is there a way that I could do that better? Better is not the right word. Is there a way that I could do that that would be in alignment with this person's preferences and my preferences as well? And you can actually look at it from that perspective, that objective perspective, to try to make things streamlined for both of you, but you're not making yourself wrong. And because you're not making yourself wrong and you're not believing that you did anything wrong, because there are no mistakes, everything is always happening for us and we're always on path and things are always working out for our benefit. That doesn't mean that you can't shift and change things. It just means that you don't make yourself wrong for doing things that other people are reacting to. You notice how I said other people are reacting to them, not you're causing other people to react to them. because other people can have any perspective that they want on what you did. There's a limitless number of perspectives that stretches out before you in any given moment, and you can choose a perspective that feels amazing to look through for that other person, even if it's something that you consider a mistake, right? Or consider like, oh, this isn't working out the way I preferred it to. Well, maybe it could be working out the way you prefer it to, or maybe you're just taking score too soon. So that other person can choose any perspective, and they can actually feel good about everything that you're doing, because they know that everything you're doing has nothing to do with them. It has to do with you. So there you are. You're not making yourself wrong anymore, and there's no emotional charge. When there's no emotional charge, that means that you're not going to project anything onto the other person. So in that moment that you feel that hit, in that moment that you feel that charge coming through, if you take a step back and you say, before I start projecting blame onto this other person for reflecting back to me what's already a belief inside of me, let me look at that belief that came up right before I wanted to get angry, or right before I wanted to just get really down on myself, or et cetera, et cetera. So you take a look at that belief and you start working with that belief and say, well, is it really true that I did something wrong? Is there anything that I need to feel guilty for? Can I understand that there are no mistakes? Can I understand that everything happens because people are attracting to them what they are a match to? So this person is attracting what's a match to this person, and they're working through their own trauma triggers because of what they're attracting, and that's a good thing. It's making them more aware, making them more awake. And from my side of it, can I move through this situation and be aware that if I did something and it upset somebody, that person's reaction is their reaction alone, and I don't need to take that on because I'm not responsible for others' thoughts and feelings. And then I move back into saying, okay, what am I feeling? And if I'm feeling negative emotion, how can I reframe to see from my inner being's perspective? What does my inner being think about this situation and about me? And that doesn't mean that you're not going to make changes to your behavior and you're not going to decide to do things differently. It just means that you're not going to have a negative emotional reaction about what happened. So when you are experiencing a charge and you're then projecting it onto somebody else, saying that it's their fault, that's the definition of projection, right? If you're not experiencing an emotional charge, then you're not projecting, and you're also not attracting anything in that moment. You're not attracting anything negative because you're not experiencing a negative charge. So I hope that helps to explain projection. Projection is what gets in the way of us taking individual responsibility is not quite the right word, of us taking a clear, honest look at what we're feeling. And then that's how you break out of the loop, because once you take an honest look at what you're feeling, you can shift it to anything that you want to shift it to. If you project it onto somebody else, guess what? You're stuck with that pattern for as long as you're projecting it onto somebody else. I know, it sucks to realize that, because there's projections happening all the time, literally all the time. So once you start to notice it, you just recognize of how many things that you're not actually taking responsibility for. But that's okay, because now it doesn't have any power over you. Now you can actually take responsibility for those things. And again, responsibility is the wrong word. You can take a good, honest look at what you're thinking about the situation, what your perspective is, and how it's creating negative emotion, and you can shift that. Hope this video is helpful for you guys. Let me know in the comments what you think, and I'll see you next time.